is also inclusive of informal labor, from click jobs to Uberization or other informal jobs, including care. And according to ILO colleagues, in 2026, 2.1 billion workers globally are projected to be informally employed. AI is also increasingly penetrating the informal economy. Workers as unregistered, unregulated, and often outside from formal labor protection. So my point here is that we cannot consider AI without considering its context and in which economic fabric we are looking at it. But of course, we also need to understand what is AI and how we understand it in this context. And I would like to refer to a few thinkers and few people who try to define AI. And I would like to start with the CEO of NVIDIA, Mr. Jensen Huang, who defines AI as a 5 layers cake: energy, chips, infrastructure, models, and applications. And why I humbly recognize his top expertise and knowledge, I believe that he missed 2 central factors that are important in our discussion today: human and capital. Let me add something here. We should understand AI on 2 connected levels. At the macro level, AI is not a neutral tool, but an economic and industrial system shaped by ideology, geopolitics, and competition, where state strategy, capital concentration, supply chain, and regulation influence what gets built and who controls it. At the macro level, AI consists of evolving capabilities that can replace, combine with, or augment human capabilities by reshaping specific tasks and skills, and sometimes even jobs. These 2 levels are interdependent. The political economy of AI determines the kinds of capabilities that are shaped, developed, and deployed, while those capabilities in turn restructure labor markets, production system, patterns of industrialization in uneven and politically consequential ways. And of course, it has implications on education and training system. So the conclusion is we need to audit and regulate AI capability, because of if an AI is able to be autonomous, to combine with the ability to accrue its own resources, then as most AI experts say, we will lose control of AI. And that's what the philosopher and historian and author Yuval Noah Harari eloquently put it. For the first time in history, human beings are moving from the absolute ruler of the planet to competing with AI. And that AI is not a tool as previous technologies such as printing, electricity, or even nuclear energy. It is an agent in the sense that it can make decisions, it can bring ideas, and can decide by itself. However, it learns from us. If we can teach AI certain goals, principles, and set purposes, it can align. Although some experts say that AI can surprise us with new capabilities. So when we are speaking about capabilities, we speak about, and I think that's where I would like to refer to, is that we speak about human first. It should be driving both the political economy that I was mentioning, but also the building of capabilities. And this is what UN Secretary General claimed when he said, we urgently need to incorporate those principles into AI safety, based on the United Nations Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And colleagues, this is why TVET system cannot afford to engage with AI passively or reactively. They must do so in thoughtful, deliberate, and purposeful ways. So why TVET matters? TVET sits at the front line of this transformation, in the intersection between economy, society, and labor market and education and training system. And that's what our UNESCO strategy for TVET is aiming at: how we support individuals, accompany transformation of economies, and engage in societal dimensions. And TVET is central for preparing learners for labor markets that are increasingly shaped by AI. Maybe we need to look at what dimension then we are speaking about. And I would like to mention a few of them. And I think that in looking at TVET as a changing the course of action rather than a destination itself is very important. First, TVET is about the set of skills we teach, from foundational skills to transversal to job specific. It's about methods of teaching and learning, from group to individualized to active pedagogies and AI-powered education resources. The models of learning, from apprenticeship and work-based learning to online and hybrid learning. It's also about how we assess and certify learners, avoiding cheating and fraud, and supporting integrity and trust. It's how institutions themselves are organized and managed, from AI-powered management information system to AI-powered decision-making. So what this guide is offering us, first, this guide does, it translates those global principles into practical guidance, specifically for TVET. It moves us from why AI matters to how to act on it responsibly and effectively, and in a human-first approach. Let me stress one central message of the guide. Effective AI integration requires far more than adopting new tools. It needs governance, it needs institutional capacity, it needs sustained investment, and above all, it needs a steady focus on educational goals, technology in the service of learning and a human being. Learners, educators, and communities must remain at the center of AI-related decision-making. Their needs, their rights, and their voices should shape every choice we make. And this guide does not approach this matter from a blank page. UNESCO's work provides the foundation for AI integration in education, and my colleague Shafika will refer to that later. We draw on the UNESCO's recommendation on ethics of artificial intelligence, our Beijing consensus, which we adopted back in 2019, our AI teachers and learner competency framework, the Digital Transformation Collaborative, and our guidance on generative AI in educational research. This guide is also the product of collaboration. It was developed with the UNEVOC network and with international experts, as my colleague Kenny just mentioned. I would like to thank the Shenzhen Polytechnic, Magdeburg University, and all the experts that were involved in the reviewing and developing of this guide. It is designed to support policymakers, institutional leaders, teachers, and trainers alike in strengthening the relevance, the quality, and the resilience of the TVET system. It is also a driver for international cooperation and solidarity. It should serve a purpose of knowledge sharing, peer learning, and co-development in a genuine spirit of multilateralism. And that's what precisely UNESCO-UNEVOC network offers to all of us. So colleagues, let me close with this. There is no single roadmap for AI integration. Contexts differ, capacities differ, starting points differ as well. That's why TVET leaders are central. It is their responsibility to get their system ready, regulated, and incentivized, train and engage in change management, forge new partnerships, including with the private sector, mobilize youth agency, and develop new programs. And while leaders will act in and through their own systems context, they do have a shared responsibility to ensure that AI advances a human-first approach, ethics and inclusion, lifelong learning, decent work, and sustainable development. And we at UNESCO remain fully committed to multilateralism, to supporting international cooperation and solidarity within and among member states in this effort. And I invite you, all of you today, and I see we are more than 500 participants, to use this guide, to adapt it to your context, to join us in ensuring that AI serves learners, educators, and communities, that serves intercultural dialogue and international cooperation and solidarity. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Boren Shakroun, for the opening remarks. I really liked how you started when you said this is about people. And I think this should be a reminder to all of us here today to not let ourselves be carried away by the advancement of technology, but to always keep in mind that what we are doing is for the people. Thank you so much. So let us move to the next session that we have. And I would like to welcome Shafika Isaacs, who is the chief of the section for technology and AI in education at UNESCO headquarters in Paris, where we're going to focus here on the UNESCO work on artificial intelligence in education. Thank you so much, Shafika, for being here with us today, and I hand over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the colleagues, and congratulations again to the team for a really excellent practical guide, and I'm looking forward to the discussions. I'm going to be very brief to just give you an overview of the way UNESCO is thinking about its priorities in AI in education. Please see this mainly as a foretaste, given the time that we have, and we're hoping it becomes a basis for deeper and more substantive conversations with all of you as we march together on this important journey. What I wanted to highlight, and I'm just going to share a few of my slides, is that as a specialized United Nations agency, we have increasingly recognized that we need to leverage a global platform that we have already established, and we are 80 years old now, which is very clearly articulated on this on the screen. Accountable to 194 member states. We work with massive networks across the world, including in TVET, and we have field offices and institutes, and together that offers a substantive platform with which we can do our work. The challenges that we are facing related to AI in education highlights the importance of ensuring that we have a shared understanding, a collective sense of this phenomena that is unfolding. We are finding that there are different insights, different viewpoints, and that our role as UNESCO is best placed to make collective sense of this phenomena. So in naming the problem, we realize that there is limited understanding and there's limited evidence. There is uneven evidence, and that evidence that is available is also contested. But we know that the pace, the scale at which AI is taken up in education, and we have very little insight in TVET, but in other parts of our education system, we know that that is growing quite rapidly from the available evidence that we have. But perhaps more importantly, the pace with which AI advancement is happening is perhaps the bigger cause for concern. That we know that every month there are emerging frontier models of AI that are dropping into the market that raises significant human-like capabilities of these AI models that demands particular kinds of attention from decision makers and leaders in our education system, including in TVET. And so what we are proposing as UNESCO is that we focus attention on understanding this phenomenon, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but our attention to understanding frontier models and how that's disrupting our foundational architectures of our education systems is a crucial part of the problem that we're trying to address. The second related problem is that these dynamics are outpacing our ability, our capability to govern AI, particularly in education systems, including in TVET. And those are some of the two fundamental challenges that our ecosystem is facing that UNESCO is trying to respond to. So the way we are engaging with this is just building on the critical points that that Boren has just highlighted, is that we take a principle-centered approach. We believe that UNESCO is best placed, given the formidable global platform that we offer, to center the public purposes of education in the age of AI, and the very principles, the human-centered, human-led principles of human rights, of quality, equity, inclusion, ethics, and social justice. And we do so in prioritizing what it is that we do, aligned to our core mandate, which, as you can see, relates to these 5 core functions in steering, in guiding, in directing the public purposes of education, including TVET in the age of AI. So we are a norms and standards setter. That's our mandate. And our task, therefore, is in addressing the formidable, complex, and volatile challenges that AI presents us to steer an equity-centered norms, standards, and guidance and policies, including in our TVET systems. That we also shape the global narratives towards human rights, human agency, equality, and equity. We know that there are disparate, sometimes dissonant narratives and dominant narratives that tend to be technocentric and techno-solutionist and AI solutionist. And we believe that we have an important role to play in ensuring that those narratives are bent towards these fundamental principles. We also are positioning ourselves and building on the role that we play as a capacity builder, including in the TVET systems. So building system, institutional, and practitioner capacity is a core part of our work, together with the many partners that we have across the world, as well as serving as the clearinghouse, driving ethical, human-centered, equitable innovation. And there are a number of programs that we are currently leading that tries to center the way we should be designing, developing AI tools so that the ethics and human-centeredness are at the foreground. And very importantly, we are playing a crucial role as a convener of partners, of private sector, civil society, government partners in a global dialogue, action and partnership structures to engage on some of these issues. So in a nutshell, this is how we are prioritizing our engagement. And I wanted to maybe, because time is so limited, just highlight the one area that we believe is absolutely crucial as a global convener in building these global, what we call a global commons for dialogue, action, and partnerships. Many of you are aware that we convene the United Nations flagship event on technologies in education, including in TVET, every year, called Digital Learning Week, which also convenes ministers from across the world, where we are surfacing these critical issues. And as many of you know, that UNESCO also leads a digital transformation collaborative with many, many partners, and that within these spaces, it becomes crucial to shape the critical narratives around centering the public purposes of education, the public purposes, human-centered, equitable agenda within the TVET space as well. And that finally also to highlight that we are now in the process also of mobilizing our UNESCO research chairs in a dedicated network that can also service our crucial work in AI in education. And I say this because in recognition also of the UNESCO chair involved in this particular forum. Colleagues, because of time, I'm going to have to conclude on this note, but to say that we welcome the engagement today, and we look forward in the actionable policies and practices that emerges from this conversation so that we drive the equitable agenda that UNESCO is mandated to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shafika Isaacs, for your input and for walking us through UNESCO work on AI in education. I think maybe we should also share with the participants that we have today that there are these resources, recommendations, frameworks, for example, for teachers and students, and important documents on AI in education that are available on the UNESCO website, and that these are very important documents if you want to understand a little bit more what has been done so far. Thank you. So let's move to the next session, and it's time for us to meet the three authors of this publication. And I welcome with us here from Shenzhen Polytechnic University, we have Song Kun Yang, as well as Wen Shiwu. And from Otto von Guericke Magdeburg University, we have Hannes Tegelbeckers. So welcome to the authors, and I would like to start by thanking you for the work that was done in the past 10 months. I think now it's time to show a little bit to the audience here, to the participants, what you have been working on. And we have 3 inputs here. We can start with the first one, where we have Songkun Yang, who will share with us the purpose of the practical guide, as well as the structure of this guide. Songkun, over to you.
Thank you, Kenny, for the kind introduction. It's my great honor to join colleagues worldwide at this launch event. First of all, please allow me to represent our team to express our sincere gratitude to UNESCO and UNESCO-UNEVOC for its forward-looking vision and strategic guidance, which in the past 10 months, as you mentioned, supported and collaborated with our UNESCO chair, headed by our president, Xu Jianing, and Otto von Guericke University, Magdeburg, to co-develop this practical guide. So why we compile this practical guide? Last year, the UNESCO-UNEVOC Global Youth Survey revealed a clear AI readiness gap. 62% of young people already use AI in daily life, yet only 30% have received a formal AI training, and fewer than 10% of schools and universities follow official AI usage guidelines. Simply put, the uptake of AI has far outpaced institutional preparedness and capability. UNESCO has already released a series of authoritative frameworks and guidance on AI in education, as Warren also mentioned, including Beijing Consensus on AI and Education, and the AI competency frameworks for teachers and students, 2024. But built upon these established documents, this guide focuses on the unique demands of TVET institutions, offering systematic, actionable support for their AI planning and implementation. So on behalf of our team, I would like to share 4 the core considerations guided our compilation work. First, TVET occupies a specific position bridging education and the labor market. All AI-related decisions here must align with occupational standards, qualification frameworks, and real workplace demands, an area requiring targeted, dedicated guidance. Second, many TVET bodies have tried various AI tools, but yet responsible AI integration calls for institution-wide strategic arrangements covering governance, management, and daily teaching practice, rather than isolated tool adoption alone. This guide fills that gap. The third, vocational competence lies at the heart of the TVET. While AI can assist training and assessment, human judgment and hands-on practical experience remain irreplaceable, which is a core concern we prioritized in this publication. The fourth, TVET institutions differ widely in infrastructure, staff capability, and local industry context. So there is no one-size-fits-all AI solution. Instead of mandating the fixed models, we try to lay out universal adoptable principles for all AI types of institutions. So to sum up, this guide is designed to support purposeful, responsible, institution-wide AI integration across TVET. Next slide, please. Let me briefly walk you through how the AI is structured. This guide is written primarily for TVET institute leaders, teachers and trainers, and institutional staff, while also speaking to policymakers and partners who shape the conditions for institutional action. The guide begins with a framing and a normative foundation. Chapter 2 examines the context, including AI's impact on work, skills, and qualification, the current development in policy and practice, and the opportunities and challenges in TVET. Chapter 3 then defines human-centered ethical principles for responsible AI use in TVET. These principles echo everything that follows. The guide then moves to address system-level conditions. Chapter 4 outlines the enabling conditions for building an AI-ready TVET ecosystem, then introduces a phased approach that institution can move forward gradually, building on the capacities that they already have. From here, the focus turns to institutional action. Chapter 5 presents institutional approaches to AI integration across governance, curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, competency development, safety, critical occupations, and innovation and entrepreneurship. Chapter 6 then offers recommendations for policymakers, TVET institutions, and TVET teachers and trainers. The guide also includes 3 practical tools presented. That is, an AI-ready self-reflection and planning tool, an AI risk register template, and an indicator framework for monitoring and evaluating AI integration in TVET institutions. That's my brief sharing. Kenny, back to you.
Thank you so much, Sang-Kun, for your contribution here and for sharing the purpose as well as the structure of the guide. We can move to the second input, and we have with us Hannes Tegelbeckers from Otto van Gulik Magdeburg University, and now the focus will be on the principles for the ethical and responsible use of AI in TVET, and also what enables an AI-ready TVET ecosystem. And it's important to focus that we're talking about a TVET ecosystem, not only TVET institutions. Over to you, Hannes.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Thank you, Sang-Kun, for the general outline. So yes, we were focusing, and as Sang-Kun pointed out, that these are the principles for the whole guide, just like setting in stone what we tried from a specific perspective on focusing on ethics. So just like, for example, human agency, you will find in other UNESCO-UNEVOC frameworks, which is like alongside ethics. Now, just like you have everything just like presented through the lens of an ethical or responsible approach. Where does that lead us? Like, if you just like put the human agency into perspectives, that means like the teachers retain the final authority over all the pedagogical decisions, and that has to be a must. And then the AI, we have to make sure that the AI augments only the human capability, right? Just like, so that it's just mere a tool which serves the purpose, and it never replaces the professional judgments of the teacher or the trainer. And then therefore the investment in teacher capacity is an important as investment in the technology itself. Just like sometimes that's overlooked, and especially with the hype nowadays, there's a lot of focus on the actual technology itself, but not just like the incorporation of this stuff into a realistic classroom. Second, the equity and non-discrimination, a very important subject, especially because of how the models are trained and what kind of data is accessible, right? So the AI tools must be tested for algorithmic bias and designed to serve all learners equitably. And that is something just like which in the current environment is really hard, just like to stand up to and actually measure. So, but we will have to, like as has been said, like from a UNESCO's point of view, we have to set the standards, right? So we have to just like fight for this kind of way, how do we address that issue? So regardless of gender, socioeconomic background, or location or disability, like we have to see if AI, just like the tools are just like overcoming a certain kind of issues, just like which are embedded within the system. We have the pedagogical purposefulness, which it has to serve, right? Every AI tool must be justified by the specific vocational competency it develops, right? And then the effectiveness is measured against the learning outcomes and not just by the efficiency metrics. So there's always the danger where we just like end up just like throwing numbers around, but not looking at the learner itself, or just like how the teacher could actually engage better with the learner with this kind of tools. Then transparency and explainability, very important as well, right? So the AI outputs must be explainable in plain language because it's such a complex system, and learners and teachers must understand how AI is generated or it generates its outcomes. And last but not least, the accountability and the data protection is very important. So that we have to be able to pinpoint that a qualified human always holds the ultimate responsibility, and we're not saying that like at some point that an agent or an NI is responsible for a certain kind of decision, an evaluation or something like that. So these 5 steps like have to be the foundation. and they have to be mapped before any kind of procurement on AI systems. And although we know that this is kind of hard, just like to like for the today's environment within the current ecosystem, we have to push for this kind of mapping in our view. Next slide, please. So just like if we lay the foundations right now, then we're talking about building an AI-ready TVET ecosystem, and that would involve the 4 dimensions. We identified the stakeholder partnerships, industry engagement, enabling infrastructure, and phased integration. So with the stakeholders partnership, we're talking about AI ethics committee, for example, joint curriculum groups, regional TVET networks, and research partnerships. For the industry engagement, there could be 5 forms: the curriculum co-design, the apprenticeship, equipment provision, the guest expertise, which is coming in, or the research and development collaborations. And if we're talking about enabling infrastructure, there could be the issues of connectivity, which kind of devices do I have cloud access, what kind of technical support can I get, and then the issue of low bandwidth, and what kind of alternatives do I have to. And the phased integration would be the pathway from capacity diagnosis to system level ecosystem building, calibrating, and to institution readiness. We had an integration pathway model with different kinds of readiness levels. Phase 1 would be the diagnosis, phase 2 early adoption, phase 3 pedagogical deepening, and phase 4 ecosystem integration, right? And then just like to say that, like for the readiness, that would be identified as the low readiness for phase 1, early intermediate readiness for phase 2, intermediate readiness for 3, and phase 4 advanced, right? And with all that comes the different kinds of perspectives. It's just like at the beginning, just the infrastructure audit, the staff literacy assessment, just checking where the institution is in itself, moving step further, automated marking, learning analytics dashboards, for example, and it's like continuing that kind of learning curve, integrating adaptive simulations or AI literacy models in itself, intelligent tutoring system, which is quite hard to integrate into any kind of existing system. And then just like finally for the 4th advanced phase, AI aligned curricula, you have to develop joint industry platforms, etc. So there's a clear path you could follow. We try to keep it open. So the adaptability for all the kind of different environments is there. That was a challenge, but I hope we just like got it straight on the point here, and like it would help the different institution just like to go along and just like set up their systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannes, for your input. And it's time to go to the input from Wenxi Wu, the 3rd author of this publication, where she will share with us the different domains that we need to consider, we need to work on as we integrate AI in TVET systems. Over to you, Wenxi.
Thank you, Kenny. Yes, after the principles and ecosystem condition, this guide presents the key. I think we need to change the slide, please. Yes, please. Thank you. This guide presents the key approaches for TVET institutions to integrate AI in practice. And these are organized around 7 domains of institutional work. Starting with the governance foundation, Domain 1 concerns institutional AI governance, readiness, and risk management. The guide proposes 3 things here. First, institutions may follow the 8 stages for establishing AI governance and policy. And this starts with defining the vision and purpose of AI use and having a cross-functional governance body, then through assessment of the situation, consultation, providing training, and towards continuous improvement. The guide also specifies the minimal elements that an institutional AI policy should contain. Second, to conduct a AI readiness self-assessment across 7 capacity areas, covering leadership, digital infrastructure, data governance, data management, human capacity and culture, curriculum and training, industry partnership, funding, and sustainability. And third, the guide notes an ongoing risk management workflow, which highlights 8 risk categories to mitigate, including risks related to pedagogy, assessment, governance, legal and ethics, equity, competency, safety, and environment. So that's the first domain. Next slide, please. So with governance in place, the next step is to integrate AI into the core functions of TVET. Domain 2 concerns the program and curriculum development. This starts with analyzing AI-driven changes in occupations and skills demand, and then updating curriculums and programs to match. The guide highlights a tiered pathway to program structuring, including AI specialist programs, interdisciplinary programs with AI combined with a vocational domain, AI-enhanced traditional programs, and general AI education. AI knowledge also should be embedded across trade specialisms, and industry collaboration keeps the curriculum relevant throughout. Domain 3 concerns AI-assisted pedagogy and training delivery. The focus here is to decide the degree of AI integration in each learning activity, which can be AI independent, AI aware, AI supported, AI enhanced, or AI centric, depending on the learning objectives. This part also discusses the main pedagogical approaches, AI enhanced simulation, and ways to harness AI in work-based learning. Domain 4 is vocational assessments. The core task here is to design the assessments that verifies genuine competence, to define when AI should be excluded, permitted, integrated, or enabled in the assessments. And this is supported by assessment method matched to the specific occupations and use of the AI resilient assessment method with safeguards for assessment in integrity. Next slide, please. So moving on, Domain 5 is AI competency development for TVET staff and learners. This part adapts UNESCO's AI competency frameworks for the TVET context. For TVET staff, competencies are mapped across the 4 role clusters: leadership and management, teachers and trainers, learning support staff, and technical and operational staff. So each group is mapped against the foundational AI competency, role-specific AI competency, and the strategic or specialist capacity. For TVET learners, there are 3 tiers that applies depending on their occupational pathways, including foundational AI competency, occupational AI competency, and specialist occupational and specialist AI competency, depending on their occupational pathways of the learners. Domain 6 addresses the AI used in safety critical and regulated occupations, which is a distinctive concern for TVET. Institutions need to define human oversight, task boundaries, and accountability for AI-supported tasks in these fields. Equally important is building learners' independent judgment to verify the AI outputs, and also maintaining hands-on competencies even as AI-enhanced simulation expands the capacity. Domain 7 is AI-enabled innovation and entrepreneurship. This means using AI to drive innovation in institutional strategies, services, and partnerships, integrating AI into entrepreneurial learning, and connecting entrepreneurship with local development needs. Next slide, please. So with the 7 domains outlined, the guide provides an indicator framework for monitoring and evaluating the institution's progress for AI integration. Each domain is divided into monitorable subthemes, and each subthemes comes with key indicators, both structural indicators and perceptual indicators. Importantly, the framework also includes starter indicators, so institutions at an early stage know where to begin. Institutions can then draw on the data available and feed the findings back to the review and improvement. So in this way, AI integration becomes a continuous evidence-based process. So that is the big picture, and we hope that you will explore the full guide and see how it can support your institutions. Thank you, and back to you, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Wenxi, for walking us through I would say, the most important part of this publication. Before moving on, I would like to ask one final question to one of the authors, Song-Kun Yang. Song-Kun, earlier I mentioned that Shenzhen Polytechnic University is also holding the UNESCO chair for digitalization in TVET. So I wanted to ask you briefly, what should be the next steps? I mean, we are publishing the practical guide today, but what should be working on in the coming weeks and months?
Thanks, Kenny. I firmly believe that even we finalize the practical guide, we and my team believe that in the future we have a lot of work to do. From the perspective of our UNESCO chair on digitalization in TVET, and I would believe that the first We admitted that AI technology and the workplace applications keep evolving at an unprecedented pace. Even we finalized the institutional guide, but the frontline vocational practice demands constant iteration. Our chair will sustain global cross-regional dialogue in the future via research projects and thematic workshops and sharing different tools. Ensure that the guide's practical guidance always keeps pace with emerging AI scenarios at the world of work. Second, as mentioned in chapter 2 of the guide, the global TVET community still lacks of systematic empirical data. Most practices are scattered small-scale pilots. It could be much larger in the future. We will build a UNEVOC-based sharing platform and connect the successful experiences and practical challenges from our UNEVOC worldwide. These real-world insights will strengthen the evidence for future updates of the guide with the support of our community. Finally, we must tackle the digital divide. Many institutions struggle with basic infrastructure and teacher capacity rather than AI tool selection. Our chair will prioritize inclusive capacity building via global partnerships and our digital national and international programs run by our UNESCO chair and our team to ensure that in the future, no institution or individual learners lag behind. No one lag behind. That's a sharing from our team. Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Songkun, and I really appreciate that you focus also on the digital divide and finishing your input by mentioning the leaving no one behind approach of the United Nations. Thank you so much. So let us move to the second part of this launch event. And earlier on, I mentioned that we had contributions from 34 different experts. And in the next two panels, we will have contributions from representatives of these experts. The first panel discussion is going to be moderated by Wenxi Wu, and we will have here perspectives from Africa, Arab states, and Asia and the Pacific. Over to you, Wenxi.
Thank you, Kenny. It is my pleasure to moderate our first panel discussion. My name is Wenxi from Shenzhen Polytechnic University in China. Just now we had an overview of the practical guide, but the guide only comes alive in real institutions and real context. So in the next 30 minutes, we will hear how TVET institutions, of course, Africa, the Arab states, and Asia Pacific are actually integrating AI. And we are joined by our 4 panelists from 4 UNEVOC centers for this session. We have Surya Katurati from the Higher Colleges of Technology in the UAE, Robert Nikitiano from the University of South Africa, Saud Altaf from the National Skills University Islamabad in Pakistan, and Svanra Ravindra from Fiji National University. So here's how the session will run. Each panelist will first share a promising practice or perspective from their institution in about 3 minutes. And we will then move into a discussion of 3 questions. Panelists, given our time, I may occasionally jump in to keep us moving, so please forgive me in advance. Let's begin by learning the first practice of AI integration from the Higher Colleges of Technology. Surya, over to you.
Thank you, Wenxi. Can I see my slides?
Wait a moment. We need a slide from Surya to get prepared.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, I can see my slides. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. My name is Surya. I am from the Higher Colleges of Technology. And one big challenge that I have noticed in my particular classroom is the limited opportunities students get to practice before actually going into the workplace. And this is where, AI has brought in some promising practices which I have used in the classroom, and they are very effective. The first one that I have used is the AI workplace-based role play, where I consulted industry experts and designed authentic role play experiences for my student, where students then collaborated with AI so that, they build their human AI collaboration skills. They, develop their communication, their confidence before going into the workplace. They develop problem-solving abilities and decision-making. One key aspect of my role play was that the students, in their role play gave AI a character. So it would sometimes be their brainstorming agent, sometimes they would be like the decision maker, and other times just like as a support figure. And I have noticed, especially in my classrooms, that students really enjoyed it, and it built their confidence to the next level. So when they actually went into the workplace, and I have visited them, they, are a transformed character. Another practice for my students has been that because I'm the system lead for certain courses in work placement, I enabled the AI workplace simulation, whereas I had an AI supervisor that I created with local settings or situations in the industry. And then I trained the AI to support the student, so the student could actually have conversations before going into the workplace, so that it had the confidence to speak to the manager, to the peers, and not just simply show up in the workplace and not know what to do. So both of these have enabled my students to build their confidence, have greater communication skills, have professional confidence to go into work integrated learning, and to experience authentic workplace simulations before going into the workplace. One key message that I would like to give from my experience is that, AI is as good as the learning design we prepare as faculty, while keeping our students' aptitude in mind, as well as being in consultation with the other educators and the industry that is relevant in that particular market. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Surya, for sharing how AI is used here to create authentic workplace practice, while also keeping educators and the supervisors at the center. That is very much the human-centered approach the guide advocates. And now let's move on to the practice of the University of South Africa. Robert, please. May put
Thank you
up
so
Robert's
much,
slide,
Michi.
please.
Yeah, thank you so much, and great discussions that are taking place. So in our case, we looked at how AI is permeating various industries, and we realized that from African perspective, we're also lagging behind, particularly from South Africa, more within the TVET sector that is largely underfunded. And if you look in terms of the skills gap, there's also a challenge. And what we're then proposing with the Ministry of Education, of Higher Education in this particular case, was more us coming with a framework that can assist with ethical integration of AI in that sector, but also curriculum digitization. But we then started with situational analysis, and what we then realized that within the landscape is that the AI integration remain largely fragmented, but also uneven. And to contextualize and qualify that particular aspect is that those TVET institutions that are within urban areas are more likely to adopt automation and digitization of some sort. But those that are largely in your rural areas, they will find difficult as far as funding challenges are concerned in terms of the integration. But then when we're busy with our proposal, we also then got to understand that the Department of Higher Education and Training through the ministry has now introduced the new system where now the TVET colleges are undergoing a reform, moving away from theory-based kind of curriculum towards industry-aligned occupational qualifications. And the other challenge that we also looked at is that we need contextualization of these AI pedagogical tools, because some of those tools that are introduced are not aligned to the context of particular education institutions. And that is why we then propose this particular project and looking in terms of how can we digitize the AI sector as far as this is concerned. But of course, there are other barriers. If you think of resistance to change and those that are accustomed to their way of doing things and seeing sort of AI as sort of an enemy that can take away their jobs, there is that resistance. The second aspect, which is crucial and was also highlighted in the practical guide, is the misalignment between the technology that comes with AI and the curriculum. And most of these products are not necessarily mapping the kind of syllabus and the practice that is there. Of course, I mentioned the budget constraints that are there based on funding opportunities that are there, but also the AI governance is also something that is missing because there is no guiding principles within this higher education, these TVET institutions as to how to manage AI, how to govern it. But also if you think of integrity and responsible use among staff and students, and there were opportunities when we're doing the situational analysis that we saw that AI has got a potential to bridge that particular gap, hence this particular project that is going to assist us. And working with South African Bureau of Standards, that is introducing national AI protocol for the country. This is going to be sort of a policy-led kind of standardization and ensure that TVET colleges across the landscape are going to follow kind of similar approach. Towards conclusion, there are interesting developments within our space. The ministry is also working on introducing 4IR labs that are going to assist in training students. If you think of virtual reality, augmented reality. So where students do not necessarily need to go to the class, but then they can sort of leverage those technological tools to assist. The government is also working on feasibility studies to look in terms of how this particular sector can assist in terms of digitization. And we're seeing a lot of opportunities that are coming with this project as time.
Robert, sorry to interrupt. Maybe could you please wrap up because time is pressing? Thank you.
No, I've actually covered the last point. Thanks so much, Finch.
You have already covered? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Robert, for presenting the challenges and opportunities of AI integration in South Africa's TVET sector. It is a great lesson for us to align the tools introduced and to the real content of the curriculum. And now let us travel to the National Skills University of Pakistan. Saad, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, respected moderator, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank UNESCO-UNEVOC to inviting me for this important events. It is an honor to presenting National Scale University Islamabad and share Pakistan perspective on integrating AI into TVET. I'm Professor Saud Altaf. Currently, I'm heading the National Skill University as a acting Vice Chancellor because our founding Vice Chancellor, Dr. Mohammad Mukhtar, has been complete their tenure. So I'm just now taking the charge of that. So come on the topic. Today, I would like to brief share three things in my slides. First, what were we doing at the NSU? Secondly, what challenges we are facing? And third, how we work in aligned with the Pakistan's AI and TVET direction from the UNESCO-UNEVOC. For the first point in which what we are doing at the NSU, and in NSU, we believe that AI should not only be taught as a subject, it should be as a tool to solve real-time problems. So therefore, we are introducing programs in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and other emerging technologies in which civil, mechanical, medical lab technologies, fintech, and so on. And NSU focuses on the practical learning, industrial collaboration, and employability. And in NSU, we always motivate the students and encourage the students to work on real-time projects instead of only studying theories. And always encourage the students, and because we are running the programs in which last year the students spent their whole duration of 1 year in industry. So this is very practical and useful for the students when they're going to graduate. At least they have in-hand practical experience on their studies. And here I'm also mentioning our student and researcher are working on some AI applications in which, as a final year project, in which they work on some smart agriculture, industrial automation, cybersecurity, and intelligence system. And we also conducting some research-based project as well, in which I'm also working on it, in which an AI-based skill mapping and labor market analysis. I'm also the PI of this project as well, which is funded by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. So the aim of this project is to understand what skill industry need today and what skill they will need in future. This help us to design education and more relevant to the employment. At NSU, we also encourage internships, industry projects, and problem-based learning, because TVET also prepares students for real project jobs, not only for examination. However, while we are making progress, we face several important challenges, as other countries and other developing countries also facing. First challenge is faculty capacity. AI is changing very quickly, so teacher need to continuous training to keep their knowledge and teaching methods up to date. Second challenge is infrastructure. AI require reliable internet, modern computer laboratories, and computer resources. And same like other developing countries, we are also the facing of the same type of limitation in these areas. And third challenge is curriculum development. Technology change much faster than university curriculum, because technology is changing very rapidly these days, especially in AI field. Therefore, institution need to more flexible and industry-driven programs. And other important challenge is responsible use of the AI. This is a very challenging area. Student can now generate their reports, assignments, or even final year projects as well by using the AI tools. Therefore, we need to redesign assessment methods so that student demonstrate real understanding capacity and practical
Doctor,
skills.
sorry to interrupt. Could you please wrap up, please? Thank you.
Yes, sure. I'm going to I want to highlight in Pakistan, we are believing moving the right direction, because the government of Pakistan has introduced the national AI policy, which provides a roadmap for AI development, innovative digital transformation, and capacity building. Similarly, our TVET sector is also placing greater emphasis on high-tech skills, digital competencies, and industry-driven training. The Higher Education Commission is also encouraging the AI education across the universities. And finally, I would like to say that integrating AI into TVET is not only the technology, it's about the preparing people for the future of work. If governments, universities, industries, and international organizations continue to work together, AI become a more education, increase productivity, and create better employment opportunity for our youth. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salt, for a great example of embedding AI across the entire program cluster and pathways. Finally, let's hear from Fiji National University. Swanra, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Miss. Please see my slides. Okay, Bulavinaka, which means hello from Fiji. So I'm going to share a project that we recently did. I will try not to repeat what my colleagues have done. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. But many of the practices that the colleagues have mentioned today, we also do something similar, may not be exactly the same. But there was this one particular project that I wanted to talk to you about, which was a human-centered AI and VR inclusive TVET in small islands developing states. So what we did was we realized that, see, in Fiji, we've got more than 300 islands. So we do have an issue of geographical locations, and getting logistics organized is quite costly, especially in today's day and age, with the fuel crisis, being persistent over the last few months. Okay, so what we've done is we have tried to digitalize our TVET programs, which we've had for more than 20 25 years, right? We've tried to digitalize it using VR technology. So this is a project that we were bidding for with ADB, and we were successful. And I must say that the experience at Shenzhen University really did help me, because the prototypes I was thinking about, I was actually able to visualize, and I was able to make that into a reality. So our approach was basically AI-supported VR simulations, short immersive learning modules. So basically the type of trainings that required that had high risk factors, the ones that were quite costly to deploy, we have sort of digitalized those components of the TVET programs into a VR kit. We are also now working on holograms. We are about to have our national conference on IT, which is a national event. We are now on the 7th one. That's happening in August, and we will be launching the products then. So some of the key considerations was ethical, human-centered AI. We have a policy on this. We're also working with the Pacific Islands chapter of the Internet Society. We're contributing there as well in terms of, how to have an ethical approach to AI. We have been using AI-assisted instruction. We also have a diploma of AI, which we are doing in conjunction with TAFE New South Wales and TAFE Queensland in Australia. So we've designed low resource, multilingual, lingual Pacific context. This is something that I've felt was very important, because in Fiji, we have, we enjoy quite a variety of diasporas. So it was quite important for us to recognize the need to have multilingual approach in the type of devices we have, not just having AI, but having AI that connects to people. So we have Fiji Bath, which is Fiji Hindi, E2K, which is our native language, and there's English as well. So early outcomes, greater access for women and rural learners, safer practical training, because the risk factor was quite mitigated with the VR AI technology, higher learner engagement. So one of the issues we have in the Pacific is that, not saying that men aren't, but women are primary caregivers here, and we've got lots of patriarchal structures in the Pacific Islands. So we see that women particularly do not have time to learn new skills themselves, and till they're at least 45 or above, because they'll be looking after family members, extended family members as well. So and by that time, people really don't want to sit in classes where you're spending 8 hours, 6 hours a day learning. So with this technology, we're able to bring down, suppose, a 3-hour session into a 15 minutes experience. So of course, there was higher learner engagement and stronger institutional readiness for AI adoption. We have tested these products across different sectors. We have 10 different departments within NTPC, all running TVET programs. We are now slowly trying to bring them onto the VR kits. And again, this is an experience that I had already seen at Shenzhen University. We were at that point in time contemplating on how we're going to do this, but the confidence of doing the project actually came from that experience. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. But what we have learned is that technology alone does not transform TVET, and that was one of my key messages when we were trying to contribute to this publication. So success comes from combining AI with educator capacity, inclusive design, local context, and ethical governance. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Swarna, and thank you for that key lesson, which I think will echo through our discussion. Transformation comes from combining AI with educator capacity, inclusive design, local context, and ethical governance. Thank you all, and we've heard 4 practices. Now let's open the discussion with 1 question, because in the interest of time, we'll have 1 question for everyone instead of 3. So the question is an important one. It is based on your institutional practice. Could you highlight a factor or an issue that strongly shapes the outcomes of AI integration, but it is often underestimated by TVET leaders or teachers? You may just highlight 1 factor. Let us start maybe with Surya, and then Robert, then Saud, Swarna.
Thank you, Wengchi. For me, as I mentioned earlier, it is the learning design in the institution, how the course is designed using AI. AI, yes, it plays a role, but how the course is designed, how it is embedded, what outcome it is going to, what learning outcomes we are supposed to be actually getting out from this embedding. All of this really matters. And so to the center, AI, yes, is at the center of everything right now, but also it should be learning design. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Surya. And Robert?
Yeah, thank you so much, Winshi. I think from my side, to add on what Surya was saying, is also the issue of bridging digital divide. We come from a societal context where digital divide is very huge, and those that have are gaining more, but those that do not have, as Carter has indicated in 2020 in his work on the intersection of AI and technology, it is sort of perpetuating that particular digital divide. And you can then imagine that those students that will have access to resources, finances, devices, and so forth will leverage and gain more. But what about those that do not have? Aren't we leaving them behind? Isn't this now creating or perpetuating that particular divide and access to education linked to SDG 4? Thank you so much, Winshi.
Thank you, Robert. And then Salt, your take.
Thank you
You're
very
muted.
much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much, moderator. In my presentation, I have already discussed the first major challenge we are facing here, faculty capacity. And because AI is advancing very rapidly, teacher need to continuous professional development to keep their knowledge, skills, and teaching practices must be updated. And second challenge is infrastructures, because we need our reliable internet, because many of our students are living in just like towns and villages. Their internet facility is very limited, so they are also facing problems. And third challenge I have already discussed, curriculum development, because technology is changing very quickly. So in universities, mostly traditional university curricula is also offering. So we need to update it. And another is main challenges we are facing as just like as a teacher as well. A student can generate reports, assignments, and even computer code as well through AI tools. So assessment methods should be redesigned and ensure the students demonstrate real understanding, creativity, and problem-solving ability for practical skills, and so on. Thank you very much for my side.
Thank you. Lastly, Swanra. Swanra, you're muted. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think once again, the colleagues have covered pretty much everything. But for us in particular, it was, as I said, over 300 islands in Fiji alone, and the Pacific Islands. I mean, we may be small, but we quite widespread. So for us, I think sovereignty is one of the key things that we have been discussing. Because I also come from the background of internet governance. So sovereignty is a very important conversation that we're having in the Pacific at the moment. But one of the key challenges I believe would be the fact that people still think, many people think that AI is taking away the ability to have, to build critical thinking in students in particular. Another one is, of course, adaptation versus adoption. In the Pacific, we cannot use cookie cutter solutions. We are our problems are very Pacific centric too, including climate change. So when we are talking about AI, we want AI to be able to complement our current efforts, not something that has, completely changes what we are doing in the sense that makes it, sort of intimidating. So I think for me, even not just for the project itself, but also to convince the rest of our department heads about going on to AI using this technology, it took me about 1 year. So we had to sort of warm up people with that idea, and then show them examples. So we've been we've been using a lot of AI for cultural lessons, lessons that village elders used to give to their children back in the days, and how we can use AI, be sovereign, and at the same time pass on the knowledge to the younger ones. So that's not just challenges, but how we sort of came around in mitigating them. Thank you.
Thank you. Great answers. So just a quick sum up, we have identified several important factors. Learning design, including assessment design and curriculum design. Secondly, addressing the digital divide, expanding the access for learners, and then developing capacity building, professional development for teachers, infrastructure, and also importantly, to design the locally based solutions, because we want AI to complement what we are doing rather than just change everything drastically without we are getting ready. So Surya, Robert, Saud, and Surana, thank you for sharing your practices and your insights. And with that, I conclude this session, and back to you, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Wenshi, for moderating, as well as for all the experts for your contributions. It's interesting to note the different opportunities and challenges mentioned, even though we have different contexts, the UAE, South Africa, Pakistan, and Fiji. And I really hope that the practical guide will also support us in addressing the challenges that we are facing. Let's move to the second panel discussion. This time, Hannes Tegelbeckers is going to moderate. And now we have inputs from Europe, from Central Asia, as well as Latin America. Over to you, Hannes.
Thank you very much, Kenny, and thanks, Wenshi, for just like the first panel, which is, I think, already basically framing the whole discussion. We're going to continue with the different areas of the world. Just like there is a lot of TVET systems everywhere with similar problems, and as the panelists mentioned, that a lot has been said in different examples, but I think the core or the interesting part is how the different systems and the different institutions are seeing specific challenges and adapting the broader ideas we have to finding the solutions to their specific identified issue they're facing, and then finding a solution which could then be shared for others to learn from. So let's continue in that spirit with ideas from Europe, Central Asia, and Latin America. We're going to start with Christian from the University of Duisburg, who developed and tested an AI-supported learning framework spanning academic and vocational education. And then we're going to continue with examples from Brazil, from Hugo, who brings a practical system-level experience from one of the world's largest vocational training networks. Then we're going to go to Robert from the UK, who focuses on specifically on AI and how it can support human judgment in vocational assessments. And then over to Isakova from the Kimyo International University in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, who has a more governmental approach and defined already a framework for governance competency evaluation model. So I'll open the floor. Each panelist has 3 minutes to outline their own idea based, and they all have 1 or 2 slides ready. So Christian, I'll pass to you, please. Just go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannes. So let's start quite quickly. I will start with our first finding. So it is, I'm speaking here based on the perspective of the German dual system and from the experiences that we had made in a state-funded project. And the first finding was that AI integration in TVET succeeds when we treat it as a whole institutional competence reform. That is while our approach starts from the field, from the occupational work and the competences you need, and not from tools. And what you see on the slide as a first point is hands first. So in vocational education, quality is defined by observable action, self-execution, for example, technical precision, and so on. And so we embed AI inside authentic work situations, because when AI use is anchored in real work processes, it strengthens competence. And the second point, or the second takeaway, is the human in the loop. We already heard today our guiding models are augmented intelligence and co-creation. So AI supports in analysis, feedback, documentation, but people stay responsible because pedagogical or safety critical certification decisions remain with qualified professionals. And this is our focus, the people. And the third point is assessment. We have another expert after me who is more in this, but let me say, once AI tools are on the table, traditional product-based assessments, as we already know and use, are not longer enough. So we redesigned it, and learners document their reasoning, how they verify the AI output, how they see risks and make critical verification. And the ability to check and justify an AI result against a technical standard, for instance, or safety requirements becomes a learning outcome on its own. And the fourth point I would like to mention as a takeaway for the panel today: institutional anchoring. None of this holds if it depends on a single motivated teacher. It depends on the governance. So we need teachers, we need IT, we need proper leadership, legal and pedagogical units. They're working together, which we did in our project. So TVET also carries a specific structural difficulty. I call it the 3-world challenge. It's aligning relatively static curricula, especially here in Germany. Some curricula are still 15, 20 years old in TVET, and fast-moving workplace practice on the other side, and regulation across schools, employers, authorities, and all at the same time. And this is a real big challenge. And to wrap up, AI integration in TVET is, you can say, ultimately a question of institutional maturity, and the technology is just the instrument and amplifies what you already have. However, the professional work and the responsibility is in the center and stays human by design. And that's all. I hope it fits in 3 minutes. In case of any questions, just drop me a line or write me via LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Christian. On the second, very good. Much appreciated. Yes, interesting. Like, one of our colleagues needs a year to prep their institution to actually accept any kind of arguments on AI, just like, and you're talking about a holistic approach which is needed, just like how far away are some others to actually having that kind of, let's call it, luxury, just like to be able to address all the different institutional fields which are necessary to actually like you identified, enable a successful integration of AI into a system with a long-lasting effect. Yeah. The realities couldn't be further away. But I think that's a good outlook of just how success could be achieved if it's been treated holistically and from the bottom up with a hands-on approach first. Thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna move to Hugo from Brazil, who's gonna talk about the integration for the Serviço Nacional de Aprendizagem Industrial.
Okay, thank you, Hans. Thank you, the UNESCO colleagues, for the opportunity to share the Senai point of view. First of all, I believe we are beating the same challenges to implementing the AI in TVET. But as a pedagogue, I am bringing the macro process of TVET here, and talking about I believe that the biggest challenge that we are in front of TVET, that's the institutional agility versus the productive demands. Driving that systemic digital transformation, the industry, the productive sector are keeping evolving in the rapid pace that and sometimes, like the other colleague said, we cannot update our curricula in that velocity, and that causes a curriculum gap. I believe that traditional multi-year circles by like 4 or 5 years, that's not following the actual demands of the productive sector, and we are trying to bring another challenges like the digital exclusion. The Brazil, it's the largest country from Latin America. We have disparities in high quality connection and device access. Yeah, it's also another obstacle to implementing AI broadly. And teacher fluency. The low digital literacy sometimes can cause a natural resistance among the instructors because sometimes they could fear to increase that kind of tools. From Senai, we are integrated AI in our educational process to bring in a governance that the orientations for the schools to implementing AI in our educational process, and also we are trying to implementing the technological foresight and management to process the large amount of data to update our curriculum more faster. And also the key lessons that we learned, that's because that's the two main lessons: the data organization to allow to implement AI and scale, and developing user-centric solutions. That's very important to bringing the real educational problems and not only to bringing only the technology, bringing like using the designing to discover the real problems for the teachers, for the students, or systemic challenges. It's very important to develop AI tools or different kind of solutions that contemplates the real life problems and become easy to implementing in the schools to making the difference. That's my side, my presentation. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, Hugo. Very interesting points, especially just like naming data organization, and one of the challenges, just like, and especially as well the low digital literacy of teachers, like digital literacy from the UNESCO 2018, I think, just like the ICT framework, we missed out of that, and just like, and now we have a collateral problem, just like because of the lack of workshops, etc. Or the lack of training we did not do back then or could not do back then, and now just like it just accumulates into the problems we have with AI continuously. Very interesting. Thank you very much. But then again, just like as you mentioned, institutional agility and productive demand, just like there's a lot of pressure on the institutions, on the system, just like with the speed on the current developments, and just like, and we have to see how we can catch up with that. Thank you. All right, next in line would be Robert. Robert, good to have you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for all the other speakers today. So I just want to focus very specifically on vocational assessment. You know, here in the UK, when we deliver our TVET systems, around 60% of the learning happens in the workplace, on the job. So how can AI then support us with the assessment of knowledge, skills and behavior, especially as it says here, when vocational assessment is made up of largely heavily time-intensive processes like discussions, dialogic assessments and observations. So as well as trying to solve the problem of efficiency, we want to make sure we preserve professional judgment. You know, we don't want the student to feel like we're devaluing the assessment, and neither do we want the quality assurance mechanisms to think that. So we thought quite cleverly about how we can use AI. We can't use it in observation, but could we use it in that setting of professional discussion and dialogic assessment? Maybe if AI could support the vocational trainer to pick out words or vocabulary and co-assess it, that may support a wider scheme. Going back to that idea of human in the loop and what we've been speaking about throughout the other assessments. So we found a way in which an AI model can support this dialogic form of assessment, and how it looks at that through semantics and syntax of the conversation. But at all times, you know, whilst the AI makes that decision, we're quite keen, as we've highlighted here, that the human assessors are responsible for all of the final assessment decisions. So yeah, it's augmented, it's co-working together, but it can support the assessment process. When an assessor can go to the workplace and do empirical observations, can the AI model now help with the reflection of the dialogic assessment? So as we've kind of gone through this, some of the key lessons that we've learned is that, yeah, vocational assessment is very time intensive, but we can find a way for it to pick up on things, maybe support the assessor, build up on existing assessments. And I think, yeah, to preserve the assessment judgment as human, but to make sure the assessor supports it.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Very much to the point. And already you've got the language into the direction supporting, not overtaking. We're just like and then the empirical data is like there's a need if you want to work with an AI, it's like you need to generate data to feed it. It's like, but there is already the data within the discussion. You just have to capture it and then just like create a system where the AI can support the teacher in making a more qualitative, valuable adjustment to the assessment, and at the same time, just like decrease the time spent on the assessment. So there's an actually quality improvement. I think just like a very good best practice example where people would like to maybe see how that is done specifically, because I assume there's a lot of stuff on the implementation side in the background, technically how to implement that, and the challenges coming with that kind of decision making, right? Data quality, data insurance, data safety issues, etc. Thank you very much. So last but not least, we do, we do have Sebo Isakova as the last presenter for the best practice from Uzbekistan. Just like the floor is yours for 3 minutes. Take it away. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. We've already heard inspiring examples of how AI can support teaching, learning, and assessment in TVET. I'd like to share a complementary perspective from Uzbekistan, how we translated these principles into an institutional governance framework that supports responsible and sustainable AI implementation. As generative AI become increasingly accessible, many TVET teachers here in Uzbekistan as well began using AI to prepare learning materials, design assessments, and support learners. And while these individual initiatives created exciting opportunities, they also revealed a significant challenge. AI adaptation was happening at the level of individual teachers, but not yet at the institutional level. Without shared framework, institutions faced growing concerns about academic integrity, ethical use, data protection, quality assurance, and ensuring that AI genuinely making more strong occupational competences rather than simply introducing new technology. To address this challenge, we developed an integrated institutional governance framework for responsible AI implementation in TVET. The framework combines 4 complementary elements you can see on the screen. First, an AI risk register enabling institutions to identify and manage risks related to ethics, assessment, data protection, transparency, and academic integrity as well. Second, a monitoring and evaluation framework allowing institutions to monitor implementation, measure learning outcomes, and continuously improve AI-supported teaching and learning. And third, a DCOMP, digital competence-based competence framework, helping teachers and learners develop the digital and AI competences increasingly required in today's workplace. Finally, rather than creating a completely new pedagogical model, we built on the ETF Darius scaffold methodology, which had already strengthened competence-based learner-centered teaching across Uzbekistan's TVET system. And by embedding AI within the scaffold cycle, goal, design, teach, reflect, and adapt, we ensure that AI supports professional judgment, critical thinking, and occupational competence instead of replacing the role of educators. And important milestone was the official registration of this framework as a software product in Uzbekistan, demonstrating our commitment to moving responsible AI from policy discussions to practical institutional implementation. And our key lesson is simple. Sustainable AI integration in TVET is not driven by technology alone, and it depends on institutional governance, empowered educators, and strong pedagogical foundation. Our experience shows that when AI is embedded within the existing competence-based teaching framework, supported by clear institutional policies and a continuous professional development, it becomes a powerful tool for improving learning while keeping education ethical, human-centered, and responsive to the changing world of work. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight. And I think I stick here with you as well, just like, because it is like, I'm not going to make a summary of a framework, but just like, I would like to state the first question straight to you. Just like you mentioned that you had developed this framework from an institutional point of perspective, and then you moved it as a software into the market, or just like into the public view. How did that transition happen? Why was it like via software? And is that a framework which the government is accepting as a national framework? Like, how is that transition working for you within, like, on the policy side, on the institutional side?
Thank you for the question, and I would like to say that it was not a very easy way to implement in a software and to get proof from government. And I would say in this case, in this approach, the most important factor was teacher capacity combined with institutional leadership. So rather than introducing AI as a separate initiative, as I said, we built on the existed methodology, which had already established competence-based, learner-centered teaching practices. And another thing is the most important factor was for us, human-centered AI, to develop human-centered AI and to give maybe clear explanation, clear definition how it should look like. And for us, human-centered AI means that technology supports teachers rather than replaces them. And AI helps TVET educators design learning activities, personalize instructions, and maybe provide feedback, while teachers remain responsible for professional judgment and ethical decision making and learner development as well. So we paid more attention on these factors, and the most important, let's say maybe the most important approach we used in this wrote in these actions. So responsible AI in TVET begins not with technology, but with institutional governance, empowered educators, and competence-based learning. So yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. That sounds already fantastically in line with the work we are trying to publish at this second, just like, and what the UNESCO is promoting over the years. So just like, it's good to hear that there's a lot already just like happening with the right foundations in the right context, and with the success obviously you have. I'd like to ask a specific question to Hugo and Robert. I was starting with you first, but the same question. Like we talked about your best practices, but I would like to, with the danger of being redundant, but just like really driving that point home, just like, what would be the single most important condition, institutionally, policy, or cultural, that made your practice work? Could you identify that for others just like to pick up on? Or just like to identify maybe difference, where you just like say there is a culture specification within a Latin America environment in comparison to the European environment, where we could have a look at just like what drives different issues, right? So to you again, just like, what is the single most important condition, institutionally, policy, or cultural, that made your practice work? What do you think?
Yeah, I can go first. So for me, actually, all right, yeah, cultural. Whilst institution and policy is really important, if the culture isn't embedded in the beginning, the whole process can fall apart. You know, whilst AI can clearly assess outputs and things like this, it can lack in nuances like culture, representations in the assessment. I mean, for us in the UK, whilst assessments happen in English, we have to acknowledge that many of our learners are English as a second language students. So does that actually impact biases in the assessment if it doesn't pick up on things, typos, spelling mistakes, pronunciations? And also how, like for me in dialogic assessment, how does someone like with neurodiversity interact with that AI tool? So I think culture has to be at the heart of everything, and then policy and institution comes later.
Okay, thank you very much. Hugo, would you add to that, or it's like agree, or it's like state something fundamentally different?
Okay, Hans, I'm agree. The culture, it's the one of the main factors that we need to act. That's because the people must the people made the difference, the digital transformation, but we need the institutional support also. That's because the policies, the orientations, the guidelines, they are also important to bring in the wide orientations from the entire system, how to using this in a responsible way, and also how to develop the best solutions of that we must invest to develop the new solutions. In Senai, for example, we invested in the cultural and in courses for educators, in implementing curricula, AI skills in curricula, for example. But we are developed also projects to directionate investments to allow this are being possible. And just to complete, I believe that's also very important to monitoring that kind of implementation. We made an adaptation of the self tool that measure the digital skills for the schools, to help the institution to making the best choice, to develop specific things to beat specific problems into that digital transformation. And just to complete, culture, it's important, but the institutional support and the guidelines, it's very important. It's more holistic process that's to implement AI in an educational institution. Based on data. That's the concept of the data-driven projects, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Hugo. And I think just like Christian can agree with that, as he is just like arguing for the holistic reforms which are needed, the holistic approach. But then just like to you, Christian, the question, how challenging is that, just like to have a sometimes approach which tries to see the whole institution in itself and try to stick with the human-centered approach within the AI. You mentioned that in your presentation that you are fulfilling both, but how hard is it, or just like how challenging is it, and how do you solve that challenge?
Yeah, thanks for this question. It's quite a big challenge indeed. So as you mentioned, for us, human-centered means augmented intelligence and co-creation. As or to go further, we are in a state now where I would say we are in a process of co-evolution of technology and humans, and by this, the challenge is indeed as we talked before, compared institutional or policy or cultural, we started convinced that we have more or less a cultural challenge, but at the end, it's an institutional challenge, and it is based on institutional maturity. So from developing from isolated experiments to turning it into for instance shared governance framework or institutional model, it's good. So our experience to think in independent roles that normally work apart. So from our experiences, we involve teachers, IT, leadership, the legal department, and so on, and embedded it in a more or less AI governance into our quality assurance cycle we have now at our university, and so on. So at the end, the decision must be made from the strategic level. So you can have a lot of motivated people within your organization if it's a TVET school or a university, but you need a goal, and you need a go from the strategic level, and also a go for some resources. It's also based on resources, which is a big challenge. Yeah.
Thank you, Christian. That's all we have time for. There is, like, for those of you who are just listening in and wonder, just like we had these discussions before. These are all the experts which we had in workshops, and all their insights found their way into the practical guide. And I'm immensely grateful for the kind of conversations we had. Just like immensely interesting. There is a lot going on at the moment. It's a race. I think we cannot win to that certain extent, but just like this kind of challenge is it's the better to tackle that with a lot of people who just like having similar ideas and sharing similar concepts, and just like that what was coming out of these discussion. And that's why we agreeing so much on a lot of stuff. Like I said, we put a lot of this down in the practical guide as well. I'd like to thank you all for the participation in that, to the other panel as well, Shang-Hoon, Wenxi, as well, just like for the co-authorship. It's been an immense pleasure. And then to Friedrich and Kenny, thanks for the opportunity to this stage. I'm on time, Kenny. Back to you, and I have to wrap up. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Hannes, for moderating this session. I would also like to thank the speakers that we had representing University Duisburg Essen, Germany, Senai in Brazil, Bright Tech, United Kingdom, as well as Kimyo International University in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Thank you so much for your contribution. And this brings us to the very last part of this online launch event, and I invite Friedrich Hubler, the head of UNESCO-UNEVOC, to give his closing remarks. Over to you, Friedrich.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny, and thank you also to the speakers in the two panel discussions that just took place. We had one panel for Africa, the Arab states, and Asia with speakers from Fiji, Pakistan, South Africa, and United Arab Emirates. And then a second panel for Europe, Central Asia, and Latin America with speakers from Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom, and Uzbekistan. Now, as I listened to the different speakers and watched their presentations, I had to think of something that Boyan Chakroun said in his opening remarks. He said, there is no single roadmap for AI integration. And this was well reflected in the panel discussions. Each speaker came from his or her institutional background with different challenges and opportunities offered by the integration of AI in TVET. The promising practices showed how AI can be used to practice workplace interaction, bridge the gap between traditional and modern TVET programs, accelerate the digital transformation of industries, enable training in low resource environments, strengthen occupational competence, enhance institutional agility, support vocational assessment, and more broadly, improve the quality, equity, and relevance of TVET. These different scenarios were only a glimpse of the many ways in which AI can be used and how it affects education, the workplace, and our lives overall. We heard a few times that AI is evolving at a rapid pace, and UNESCO will continue to facilitate the discussion about its ethical and responsible use. The guide on integrating AI in TVET that was launched today is an important contribution by UNESCO-UNEVOC to this still emerging field, and we will keep working in this area together with the members of the UNEVOC network and our partners at UNESCO and other organizations. The fact that we had over 500 participants in this webinar is an indication of the strong interest in AI in TVET, and we will continue to respond to this demand. Now, let me mention some upcoming activities. First, we will translate the publication into Chinese, French, and Spanish by the end of this year. And in addition, UNESCO-UNEVOC will organize webinars starting later this year to support TVET institutions that try to integrate AI in TVET. And in the meantime, I encourage all of you to download the publication to support us with dissemination. Can I have the final slide, please? We prepared a slide with the QR code. You can access the guide through this QR code and also, of course, on the website of UNESCO-UNEVOC. And a reminder to the audience, this launch event was recorded and will be available in 4 languages: Chinese, English, French, and Spanish on the UNEVOC YouTube channel. Finally, I want to thank again the authors of the report from Shenzhen Polytechnic University and Otto von Guericke University Magdeburg, and all the experts who contributed to the publication for the excellence collaboration. Thank you also to the speakers at today's webinar and to the audience that stayed with us for the last 2 hours. My colleagues and I look forward to seeing you at a future event. So thank you again and goodbye.